Okay. Healthcare CEO caught. Holy, we don't even need to go there. I know he's been caught. All the people simping for him are soy. Have you said something like this that I can just latch onto?
What do you think?
What do you think?
Simping is in like joking that he's hot, or like that he.
No. Like, what do you think about killing CEOs of companies that are answering to shareholders, that are answering to board members, that are answering to shareholders?
Generally, not a good idea.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Cringe, loser, safe take.
That's pretty.
boring.
I think it's a difference.
Why not just walk into your local fucking like Florida health clinic and just murder the person there, being like, yeah, thanks for not like. Where do you start? Where do you
It's like
end?
one of those things where it's like, should he like? Do I want him to do it? No. Do I care? Like, not really.
Oh, you don't care if millions of people are being denied health insurance?
I bet you would.
No, the opposite.
I
Or
bet you would.
dying.
I
If all
bet
the
you would
CEOs
fucking care if all the CEOs started getting killed, and then they all need to have a lot of protection, and then the cost of your insurance goes up by. I mean, the question is if health insurance. I don't know how regulated it is, but like.
Highly regulated.
Okay, so they can't just like raise the price by like 20% and like, oh, everyone's covered now, problem solved, right? But you don't want to pay 20% more for your health insurance, do you?
No.
Yeah.
100%.
So when that happens, they got to make unfortunate. They're like, listen, I know that you're an Iraq war veteran and your legs don't work so good, but I ain't giving you a fucking motorized wheelchair. You got to use the fucking manual one. Your arms still work. And you're like, but my arm's tired. And I'm sorry, bro. I don't care, okay? You ain't getting that fucking $13,000 wheelchair. And you're upset, aren't you?
A little bit.
Well, fuck you. You have arms, use them. Right? But, I mean, shit like that, but also to other levels. I mean, there's also fucked up shit that they do, no fucking doubt. But, like, what do you want to do in these circumstances? Like, it's a fucked up thing. Either give us, like Canada-style healthcare or don't. But they put us in the middle spot where it's like rich people get decent healthcare and, like, well, I guess poor people can get. How good is Medicare or Medicaid? Any of you guys know?
I think Medicaid is like, okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So if you are on Medicaid and you want to do like a CT scan, how is that like impossible? Like you're on a year wait list, or is it like?
I'm pretty sure it's okay. Like I think providers don't really like it as much because I think the reimbursement rates are a bit lower, but that's subsidized by the people that are paying health insurance. So I'm pretty sure it's decently okay.
I think it's more an issue of like not even getting the procedure done. It's a matter of, am I going to get a bill for this 6 months later because I thought I was covered?
I think, didn't Trump get rid of that?
What?
Wasn't that one of the things that Trump did, like the No Surprise Act or something? Am I making this up?
I still got surprises on my
I thought
bills in
Trump
California. So.
made some bill which was something to do with transparency with your hospital bills.
Maybe Biden did?
Well, let's go to the arbiter of knowledge.
Well, I saying this because everybody in chat is saying Biden did, so that was Biden's honesty in billing or some shit.
Okay, maybe it was Biden then.
Like even I think there's even cases like even if you ask a doctor up front like, oh, we're gonna do a CT scan, it's like, okay, is that,
they don't know. The doctor doesn't know fuck all. By the way,
that's where it's even like, or you can't even ask like how much is it gonna cost? Not even is it gonna be covered? How much is it gonna cost? And the line is like, we don't know, we have no idea.
Yeah,
and so it doesn't really give you so you're kind of taking a gamble there with.
Well, I think I guess you have to be careful a little bit with insurance, right? Like you could be getting fucked, but I also hear stuff. I don't know how true it is. It's like if I go to the hospital, like let's say my fucking, I don't know, appendix explodes or something, and I go to the hospital and I'm like, oh, okay, I have insurance, I have good insurance and everything, and the doctor's like, okay, what's your insurance? I'm like, here it is, and they do it, and I just assume, I don't think that anything's going to come to me. At the end of the day, I'm like, okay, I have my thing. What about if they come back later and they're like, hey Dan, listen, your insurance company, they're not actually covering. We used a new technique on you called the appendix exploderoo. We use that on you, and your insurance isn't covering it, so you're responsible for $36,000.
Then you might get fucked.
That's where the fucky shit comes. I think people are more.
But I've also heard that people are like, well, you tell them, no, please, no, I don't have the money, and then they don't. Then they're like, oh, okay, well, it's actually $14 or something.
Oh, for hospitals, sometimes they negotiate, sometimes they don't. You should never trust anecdotal anything on anything for Reddit, because sometimes, it's just completely and totally unreliable.
Like a Luigi voice.
For most places where I've asked about negotiating cash only, like I think a lot of places have told me that we can't change the prices on that because the prices are set. And like obviously,
but that can't be the case because they charge way more to insurance, knowing that insurance can pay, so that. when you, the peasant, comes up, they don't.
Yeah, but I don't think they have, like, the way that they do that isn't to say that, like, if you pay cash, you get to pay less. They probably have, like, a program that they're allowed to outline for, like, special patients who can't afford can pay less or something like that.
I would be fucking pissed, by the way. Like if, like, let's say, what can happen with your appendix? Something like it bursts or something?
Appendicitis, yeah, it blows up.
Yeah, so if my appendix blows up and I go to the hospital and, like, then my insurance company is like, yeah, we don't actually cover that unless you first call this number. It's on your health. Like, there could be some bullshit like that too. It's like, you know, on your documents, if you have an appendicitis, you have to first call the appendicitis hotline and get the approval first. And it takes 15 minutes, but you got to do it. And if you don't do it, you're not covered. Like, that could be the type of thing that they might do, right?
Or I think it's, to my understanding, like when it comes to like emergency rooms, like emergency services like that, it's more flexible.
Yeah.
Like anywhere you go, I think they almost, it kind of covers. But if they admit you,
it's probably going to depend a lot on the insurance you have and like with the in-network, out-network bullshit. And then, yeah, inpatient versus outpatient stuff is going to change a lot too, right?
But it's bullshit because, like, if you go and they do the procedure on you, great. But then they're like, hey, you're in no shape to go anywhere. We have to keep you overnight. Are you in a hospital that's covered under your insurance? You don't even fucking know.
Yeah.
Like, you were, it's like, why didn't you pick one where you knew? It's like, bitch, my fucking appendix exploded.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what's really fucked? This actually happened to a friend of mine. They were on a cruise and in the Dominican Republic, and their shit, I think, like, they had a bowel obstruction or something like that. Like, I don't know what that means exactly. It sounds like literally your intestine
Your colon gets backed up and it just kind
rips a fucking hole. You got a fucking huge ass shit just push its way out.
Diverticulitis, I believe.
I don't know. But anyways, that's not, like, the Dominican Republic is not a place that you want to have your shit get fucked.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I actually don't know this for sure because I've only called an ambulance a couple times in my life. You can't tell the ambulance driver where to take you, can you?
I don't know.
I never even thought of that. Like, if you get an appendicitis and you know...
Don't they make money? Oh, I bet they fucking do, those rat fuck ambulance drivers. The worst, the scum of the earth ambulance drivers and EMTs, those leeches. No, I'm kidding. But it wouldn't surprise me if ambulance drivers... have some sort of incentive to bring people to certain hospitals.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but I seriously doubt that, because the whole point of calling an ambulance is that it's an emergency, that you need like potentially like supportive care on your way to a place. So the idea that like, oh, well, we're gonna go 30 minutes out of the way, like if that was the case,
no, 30 minutes out of the way would be wild. But like, let's say you're downtown Manhattan and there's 4 hospitals that they can take you to.
My guess would be whoever's providing care for the best care for the particular thing that you're dealing with.
I bet there's a
what
financial
if you were to say
incentive.
like, hey, I know that this emergency room, if I get admitted, they're not going to cover my shit. You need to take me to this one.
The thing is that like when you're calling an ambulance, it's supposed to be like an emergency, not like I'm gonna go shopping for the best hospital on fucking Google while you take me to a place. I don't know if they consider that at that point. Like if you get brought to an emergency room, I don't know if they ever consider like ability to pay. Like if you're like having like a serious like this person's about to die, I don't know if they make those decisions right there. I think they just do what they need to do and then they figure out afterwards.
But that's what I mean. It's like it almost kind of ropes you into it because like you brought me to this emergency room. It's not on the ambulance drivers, obviously. You brought me here. Like, cause like I don't think they can do that.
This would be a market failure when it comes to healthcare. Imagine if every single time you went to a restaurant, it was only when you were at like the point of starvation. Well, you're probably going to eat whatever's closest to you, which inhibits your ability to like accurately shop for like an affordable, good restaurant. So like people are going to feel like this isn't
going to be
exactly. Yeah. Like, oh shit, I just happened to be near Ruth's Chris and now I owe $400 because I was starving to death. Yeah.
Can you actually now? Well, now I'm thinking if you. Like, let's say you get taken to emergency room, they do your appendix, whatever, and can you go somewhere else for...
Just to be clear, for all the fucking dipshits in chat, there's literally an article on the stream right now saying that there's incentives for people to be, for ambulance drivers to bring you to hospitals. So how does it feel that you're so fucking confident, okay? You're so fucking confident hearing shit like... Dan is proof you can be retarded and also successful. How does it feel that it's proof that you can be a fucking virgin incel, basement-dwelling fucking virgin, and also be retarded? You have literally none of the good things going for you, and you're also wrong. Okay? That's wait. MF Wit.
To drive you to a certain hospital?
Or is it just the ER in general?
This one is an ER in general.
Okay.
But there's incentives to do it.
What do you mean?
Well,
incentives to do what?
Well, like to bring you to the hospital.
Ambulance.
Yeah, of course you're calling an ambulance.
Oh, so they should have an incentive to bring you to a certain place to make money? They have financial incentives to do it.
So
yeah, of course. Otherwise, it's a totally wasted thing.
No, they get paid once they come there.
So I think
the hospital doesn't get paid if you don't pay. If you don't pay that,
so you're saying the hospital makes money if the ambulance goes there
and brings a patient back.
Ambulances aren't owned by the hospital.
That's fine, but I'm sure they're contracted by the hospitals or something. I doubt it.
Independent operation, actually.
Yeah, I don't think that what you're saying is true.
I think what this means is like
if the money on it.
If you
that an ambulance that you can call 911 and a random privately contracted ambulance could pick you up and take you anywhere they want. Or are you using like a retard like loophole where you're like, well, it's not that they can take you anywhere they want.
Who do you think the ambulances are run by? Be careful here and think about it.
Look it up. Just look it up.
No, you're very confident. You're very aggressive.
Just look it up.
I don't need to look it up because I walk around fucking Miami and I see all the fucking random ass fucking company ambulances that aren't associated with a hospital. You see them too.
All right, so an ambulance can pick you up and take you to Uncle John's.
I think they would have to take you to something within reason. They can't take
within reason, so contracted by like an approved medical establishment, not to a random fucking place.
They can't take you 4 hours away, no. But they could probably take you, like Mount Sinai is the closest hospital here, but they could also take you to the University of Miami. They could take you to Jackson.
There's no way. Hold on. It's my guess is going to be that they take, especially if it's an emergency, they take you to the closest available bed.
Because you could sue them for endangerment.
Yeah, there's no shot that I'm driving by a hospital dying and they're taking me across the bridge to some other fucking hospital. There's no way.
I think what this means is like, let's say you're at a bar, you faint for some reason. We call an ambulance, you get checked out. It seems you're okay. You just kind of had like, I don't know, you got dizzy, you had low blood pressure, whatever. The EMS guys are like, you should probably go to the ER just to get you checked out.
It's so fucked up that they're getting that, like they get
thing.
Like kickbacks just to like bring people to the hospital in the first place.
When they know that did they really need ER care? No, but
this is just more parts of the fucked up system of every part of it.
I mean, like then there'd be a kickback either way.
Well, no, the idea is that once
let's say they get paid regardless. Well, they show up. Well, in that case, why the fuck would I want to take this guy back? I already gotten paid. Then you would have an incentive not to take anybody back to the hospital.
Well,
no?
I would assume in that case, you wouldn't want them to get paid just to always shuttle you to the hospital. You'd want them to get paid for showing up in the first place and doing their job, right?
Sure, but I imagine if you're taking back a bunch of patients that have no issues, like if the ER comes back with a patient, it's like, oh yeah,
well, apparently
this kid got
a problem.
Okay, let's read then. It's a problem. Medical treatment in the emergency room is expensive, but there's a perverse incentive at work which encourages EMS workers to send more people there.
You're doing your dismissive voice now.
I'm literally just reading it out. You read it. Go.
I'm going to read it in my Hassan voice. Okay. Medical treatment. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Medical treatment in the emergency room is expensive, but there's a perverse incentive at work which encourages EMS workers to send more people there. Medicare reimburses for 911 calls only if the patient is transported to the ER. A pilot program at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City tries to keep patients from coming back to the ER. Emergency medical technicians, EMTs, are trained to save your life and aim to get you a hospital as quick as possible when needed. One thing they are usually not asked to do is find ways to save money. That's crazy, chat. NPR Zoe Chance explores one experiment in New York City that is trying to cut emergency care costs and cut return trips to the ER. Zoe Chance byline. You're not supposed to say byline, right? I feel like this is something we're supposed to listen to.
Here
no, it's 5 minutes. Okay. I'm in an ambulance and we're on the way to the emergency room. How long have you been feeling like this, Michael? Like 2 days. For 2 days? Is there anything that hurts? Michael's diabetic. He hasn't eaten 2 days. Sweaty, pale. Closest emergency room on a Friday afternoon. It is packed. Unidentified hospital worker number 1. Excuse me. No. Hospital worker 2. You can't go in that way. Chase. Peter Dumrati, the EMT.
My God. Chase.
And he can't even get his patient through the double doors. There are so many stretchers and police officers and firefighters and paramedics and doctors. He grabs the first nurse he sees, trying to get his patient to the front of the line. Dermody. He's been feeling sick for 2 days now. Unidentified doctor. Was his leg twitching?
Nurse.
Hold on. I want him in my department. This is when House comes in and he sees the one symptom and he's like, wait a second.
Listen, we had Chase
You
right
were diabetic
here.
for 2 days, but you had amyloidosis. Okay, sorry.
Chase is like, oh no, Mike. Mike, he's just on the bender.
Okay.
That's my Aussie accent.
All right, okay, wait. He can't even get his... Okay, Dermody. He's been feeling sick for 2 days now. Unidentified nurse. All right, okay. I'm not taking a report on you, Dermody. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought ... Unidentified nurse, I'm just trying to get a stretcher. Dermati, I'm sorry, I thought you ... Unidentified nurse, but you're in line for triage. Chase, this whole thing happening around me is very expensive. The ambulance ride, minimum $350. Median emergency room stay varies a lot, but is regularly over $1,000. But the way the system is set up, the EMT has few choices about this expensive decision because of who picks up the bill. For instance, if someone calls 911, Medicare will only pay for the ambulance and the treatment if the patient takes that ambulance to the emergency room. So that sets up this incentive for the way emergency services works. There is really only one destination because ... Dr. Kevin Munjal. You only get paid.
Munjal.
Okay, you only get paid if you bring that patient to the emergency department. Chase, this is Dr. Kevin Munjal. He's in charge of EMS at Mount Sinai, a big hospital in New York, and he's totally obsessed with this perverse incentive that drives up the cost of healthcare. Munjal, the way we practice is so often affected by the incentives that are created in the system, and the incentives are often about what gets reimbursed and what doesn't get reimbursed. Chase, the incentives are the same for the hospital Dr. Munjal works at. Still, he's trying to change the system. He can't stop people from getting sick from calling 911, but he thinks that maybe he can do something about people who use ambulances over and over again, the frequent flyers. Dr. Munjal says that 22% of the patients released from the ER come back within 30 days. I heard about this phenomenon from David Koenig, the guy who runs the ambulance company. He says he sees it all the time.
Wait, the ambulance company?
Oh.
What the heck?
What?
Ambulance company? I thought that was owned by the hospital.
Who said that at any point in this conversation?
Well, I like to imply that right now.
Oh, well, literally nobody did. I said that even if they're privately run, they're obviously contracted by the hospitals because they can't take you to Uncle Joe's shack.
Well, no,
David Koenig, that is what you implied. David Koenig.
An ambulance can take you to whatever hospital is available.
Yes, an improved, like a real hospital.
They're not contracted by the hospital any more than they're contracted by every hospital.
Sure, whatever. They have some kind of regulation in place to get calls routed through 911. I can't get a 911 call. If somebody calls 911, it's never going to my phone. So the businesses that are approved to take 911 calls are probably businesses that have to deliver patients to in-network hospitals or something.
It's possible. It's possible.
The guy who runs the ambulance company, he says he sees it all the time. David Koenig, I've done plenty of calls where I walk in at 3 o'clock in the morning because someone's fallen and they literally still have the hospital wristband on their wrist from 8 hours before, and then they get dropped off. Dr. Munjals thinks maybe these guys, the EMTs, maybe if they do their jobs a little differently, this is a place where he could start to fix the problem. Chase, back in the ambulance, this time the EMTs are doing something different. They're bringing a patient home from the hospital who'd been sick with pneumonia.
The P is silent, by the way, Mac, in case you didn't know that.
Unidentified EMT. She has a nebulizer. You check her pressure. Josenia Reese, yeah. Unidentified EMT. And she's also got this glucometer for the diabetes. Okay. This is the kind of patient who could easily end up back in the emergency room. She's elderly. She's weak. She could trip and fall and come right back. So part of the new protocol designed by Dr. Munjal is for EMTs like Josenia Reese to talk with the patient and the ambulance and find out if their home is as safe as it can be. Reese, so as far as like in your home or in your house, you have night lights and stuff. Okay. What about the bathroom? Does it have like the grab bars and the heat adjuster? Yes, that's there too. Okay. Chase. And once the EMTs arrive in someone's home...
Can we do voices? Hold on.
They're being... No, because it's going to take 20 hours to read this. And once the
we'll
EMTs...
be fast. Yeah, he's Chase. Go, Chase. Go. That's you, Mac.
Once the EMTs arrive in someone's home, they're being asked to check the apartment for wires and rugs that someone could trip over.
We got up there and there's rugs everywhere. I mean, there's rugs on top of rugs. Everything was blocking the way. Like we had to move furniture to get into the room. You're Chase, Steve. No, wait, he's Chase.
Wait, so I'm confused here. So this sounds like they're saying after someone has visited the emergency room, the EMTs should bring them home and like help make sure, try to mitigate the risk of them going back to the emergency room.
Yes.
So the argument is that them not doing so is almost like hoping that they will come back.
I don't know, I'm not really paying attention to
I think what they're trying to do is EMS is just one part of like a really complicated chain of like medical things, right? So if somebody calls for an ambulance comes and picks you up, takes you back to the hospital, depending upon like when you go to an emergency room, they're there to basically make sure that you're not dying. Like, is the patient stable? Like, can they leave the hospital, not have like, they're not going to like code out or they're not going to have like an episode of some crazy shit. But it might be very obvious depending on the investigation, whatever. And an EMT does when they get back home, like, okay, well, we're taking this lady back home. We know that she like has a glucometer or whatever for blood sugar. We also know that she like her air conditioner's not working. She's got, they said, rugs everywhere. She's probably going to trip and fall. That her like cabinet is a fucking nightmare. This is a lady who's going to call us back in 5 days because she's having an issue, right? Okay. So I think they're trying to say like, well, how can we get our EMTs to operate in a way where we can try to reduce the amount of unnecessary callbacks, basically.
Okay, but their argument is that the incentive is they like those callbacks because
no, I don't know what the argument the fuck. Everybody has to have some bad incentive in healthcare, but the reality is there's an incentive either way. There could be an incentive to bring somebody back because that's the only way that you get paid for it. But you could say, okay, well, let's get rid of that incentive and make it so you get paid no matter what. Well, in that case, there might be less of an incentive to figure out who really needs to go back to a hospital, right? Because if you're EMS, sometimes making the decision not to bring somebody back might be important if you have a limited number of beds or doctors, or physicians available to help people. You don't want to bring back every single person and keep them as long as possible. Because
that just seemed like that was the argument where because like that's another thing too, where it's like if you bring them to a certain hospital and it's like back the fuck up, as opposed to another hospital which is like more empty, you're gonna get seen quicker. Do you have the what's what I'm looking for obligation to take them to the other emergency room?
When EMT is driving people around, they're getting notifications from hospitals for like who has availability. You're not just like driving to the closest one hoping that there's like availability for a bed. Like I'm pretty sure they're getting updates, or they're like in contact with hospitals to see who's available or not.